Coming up next on Headline Humboldt, we'd sit down with Patrick Cleary from the Humboldt Folklife Society to talk about this year's Folklife Festival, the first since 2019, and why music inspires such passion in our community. Plus, we'll analyze how a fish farm planned for the Samoa Peninsula will impact the county's renewable energy goals. On July 28th, county decision makers will deliberate and take public comment on Nordic Aquafarms' proposed facility. Coming up now on Headline Humboldt. From the top of Humboldt Hill, this is Headline Humboldt. I'm James Falk. Thanks for joining us. I was almost 12 years old when my dad first bought me a broken down acoustic guitar, one with a bent neck, a missing string, and action so high it shredded the tips of my fingers. I absolutely adored the thing. I knew I wanted to play guitar because my dad played guitar, my uncle was a kind of hillbilly prodigy on electric guitar, and my grandpa had been quite the Renaissance musician, having mastered the fiddle, the banjo, and the guitar over several decades. I later inherited that fiddle. We all played different styles of music, had vastly different tastes, yet we all had that in common. Being a musician helped me define myself during those adolescent years when self-esteem and identity are critically important to mental health and ultimately to growing up. To me, this is what folk music is all about. Family and friends passing skills and passion back and forth between them as they build a sound and a musical aesthetic that is unique to them and to their region. It's music that builds community and relationships. This year, for the first time since 2019, Humboldt Folklife Society will once again be putting on the Humboldt Folklife Festival, a celebration of music and culture that brings fans and musicians out from all over to share their passion for music and their way of life. My grandmother once told me that I wasn't a real guitar player until I learned how to play Wildwood Flower, the Carter family tune that her husband and sons had spent so much time and effort perfecting. It was many years later when I finally took the time to master that relatively simple tune, but now it's one I play often to help me connect with memories of my grandfather, my dad, and my uncle, all of whom have since passed on. I'm pretty good at that old riff, but I know that somehow my version will always pale in comparison to the three of them plucking it out on the cloud somewhere in the great beyond. Joining us for the interview tonight is Patrick Cleary of the Humboldt Folklife Society to talk about his organization, their upcoming festival, and why music is so vital in bringing people together. Thanks for joining us, Patrick.
Oh, my pleasure. Thanks for having us.
Yeah, no problem. So this is pretty exciting. It's been a while. Let's start with the beginning. So what is the Folklife Society and how did that get going? It's 40 years old or something like that, right?
Yeah, it started back in '78. It was a little festival back in up on Fickle Hill. And it was a wonderful little festival that had 7 or 8 outbuildings, and they had dances and lessons and jam sessions and things like that, and was there for a long time. Moved to the Adorney Center in the '90s, and then in early 2000 moved to Del Arte at Blue Lake. Yeah. And it's been a tradition for the local musicians to get together and share their music and to teach and to dance and sing and to get everybody to participate. So it's been a real special part of our community for a long, long time. Longer than me.
Now, the website for the organization says that its mission is to teach, celebrate, and encourage participation in folk and traditional arts. I mean, to me, that's something that singles us out, and I haven't been big on the festival scene, but like I've been through, the festival, and there's tents set up where people are sitting in circles, and there's like active jam sessions, and it's like, don't be shy, come up, show us what you got, kind of vibe. Is that unique, or is that something that happens all over the country that I just didn't know about?
I think a lot of festivals have some sort of informal way of playing together music. A lot of times it takes place in the parking lots. This festival is, it's a lot less formal than, say, something big like the Telluride Bluegrass Festival or Strawberry Music Festival. Here we're trying to make it accessible. We're trying to put your neighbors up on stage so you can see people you know and interact with every day and see that, hey, they can play music, they can sing, and that can inspire you to pick up your instrument and play a little more Wildwood Flower. which is a classic.
It is a classic, yes. I've since come to learn how important that song is in the history of bluegrass, especially.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
that's baked deeply into the American folk music scene. But we take a pretty broad view of folk music too at Folklife.
That's what I was going to ask you. It's not just bluegrass, right? It's all kinds of things.
It's all kinds of things. I mean, as Big Bill Brunsey once said, it's all folk music. I never heard a horse make none of it. And and what we got. Here, we're actually starting out. I'm really excited about this. We're starting out with a surf rock band, the Starhoppers.
Okay.
And I will argue strongly that surf rock is folk music.
Hey, I mean, I think it's more about the philosophy than about the actual style of music in some sense, right? I mean,
yeah,
it's
and I think as long as it's people making the music and something that is a shared tradition, I think that's an important part of folk music. And, I mean, surf rock is certainly 50 years old. We actually also have a Grateful Dead cover band this year, and somebody was arguing with me about that. And I said, look, Jerry Garcia's been dead for over 25 years. This has now become traditional music.
Well, and not only that, but Jerry Garcia and Grisman did some great classic recordings in terms of bluegrass. I mean...
I missed that, James.
I said Grisman and Garcia recorded some great albums together doing
bluegrass. And Garcia was a great bluegrass banjo player.
Yeah.
And so, to me, the most important thing is to encourage people to sing and dance. And, that's why we do the workshops on Saturday. We've got Latin percussion, we've got clawhammer banjo, we've got an Irish fiddle session. And then we have our very favorite Beatles sing-along, which is, probably the most popular event we do.
How could it not be, right?
And, that will be going on in addition to all sorts of, bands playing all day long on Saturday. And we do have a couple of great bluegrass bands there.
Yeah.
But I'm playing with an acoustic blues band called the Backseat Drivers, and we will have the Academy Fiddlers there, led by Blake Ritter, for some of the younger fiddle players, to showcase them and to give them some encouragement and some love, and to encourage the kids that they in fact can pick up that fiddle too.
Yeah.
It's a pretty special thing. We've really missed doing this for the last.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. What was the COVID story? Obviously, in 2020, you were probably expecting to have a festival like everyone else was expecting to have a summer, right? And then all of a sudden, you didn't. What was that like, and how does it feel now that you're able to resurrect it?
It feels good. We're still cautious about it. We're really trying to, we're doing everything outdoors this year. Traditionally, we did some events indoors. Probably the biggest challenge we had was with the barn dance, which is one of our most popular events. And we're going to do that Friday afternoon at 4:00 in front of Del Arte, out on the street. And we want to keep everything outdoors just for safety's sake. I wish COVID was behind us, but it's not. But at this point, we're trying to get back to normalcy as much as we can. And we know that the demand is there. People are really, just aching to get together and hear some music, play some music. And it's pretty pent up.
Yeah. One of the things I've noticed since I moved up here when I was 12 or so, it seemed like that there was a big passion for bluegrass music in Humboldt County. Do you think the festival has had something to do with that, or is it did the festival form because of that passion? I mean, I know it's not just bluegrass, but there does seem to be a pretty strong flavor there. Which came first, I guess, the bluegrass or the festival?
I think there's always been a core of talented musicians here. I think just like we have a lot of artists and everything, I think that is part of the Humboldt County and growing up. Mm-hmm. But I think the festival has helped to raise things to another level. I think that one of the things about the festival is it's one of the few times that the hardworking musicians get to see each other,
Yeah.
and they actually take that very seriously, and they raise their game. They practice more, and we've had a number of people come through here, performers like Melody Walker, like the Tashina and Tristan Claridge, like Jason Romero, who have gone on to be fairly major musical influences out there
Yeah,
in the world.
Jason Romero actually was the boyfriend of an old coworker of mine.
Oh, okay,
Strangely.
yeah. No, Jason, Jason's won, and his wife have won Canadian Folk Music Awards, and not to mention the fact that his banjos are, have a 5-year waiting list in order to get one.
Yeah.
I should have bought one back when he was here, and he offered to make me one, and I hesitated.
Oh, wow.
But I think the Folklife Society really helps reinforce that musical ethos, if you will, that sort of world, and it's a really special thing. And we've seen it come up through the generations now.
Yeah, that's part of what I was trying to say with my intro. And folk music is so much about the sharing of the gift. It's like you build a community through music and you pass it on from generation to generation. And it's like it evolves, it changes with every person who learns, but it's also at core kind of the same spirit. You're obviously a musician. What's your instrument of choice and how long have you been playing?
I play a number of instruments, but lately I've been settling into mandolin in particular, and blues mandolin is as sort of an obscure hobby I have here, a resonator mandolin,
Wow.
which I'll be playing on Saturday with the backseat drivers.
Okay.
And but I do play some banjo. I play some guitar. I've started taking up the dobro as well. And I'm an amateur. I do it for love. I don't do it for money.
Yeah.
And I think that's a big part of what the word amateur. That's where it comes from the word love.
Yeah.
So
that's right.
I think that that's a big part of the whole culture, as well as the love of music.
Yeah. Now, how would you say, for myself, I know it's been a huge impact on who I am and how I've become who I am in life. But how would you say being a musician has impacted your sense of self and your feeling of belonging or not within the community?
Oh man, it's changed it completely. I joked when I first moved here 25 years ago that nobody didn't know I wasn't a musician, so I could pretend to be one.
There you go.
But it certainly is. It's a big part of my identity, especially now that I'm, sort of semi-retired. And it's, I think where I hope to see the Folklife Society going more and more is to, particularly as we get through COVID, is to be doing more workshops and classes. I hope to help to organize those and to encourage other people to do it, because I think it changes. It provides relaxation and joy. I'm fond of saying that the word is play music, and the sense of play is really important to be able to, to have fun with it, and not make it a job.
Yeah.
And, to the extent to which we can infuse a little play into singing, we all can sing. I know people who are petrified of singing in public, and I love to try to get them to encourage. And we all can dance, even though a lot of people are embarrassed to dance in public. But to the extent to which we can embrace that side of ourselves, it makes us more whole as human beings.
Absolutely, and I think that in a society and culture that's always distracted, it seems like a great way to center yourself and remain mindful of what's happening in the moment. It's like you transport yourself, you can transcend the moment through the music. That sounds a little cliched, but you understand what I'm saying, I think.
Totally.
Yeah.
No, it's a form of meditation, I think, and concentration.
Yeah.
And really, for me, my ritual is before I go to sleep, I pull out an instrument for at least a half hour and it just kind of gets the brain waves on a more relaxed vibe, if you will. Yeah. But no, it's part of who we are. I think it's part of mankind. Almost every culture that has been found has some form of musical and dance expression.
Yeah. So now I also noticed on the website that you're looking for volunteers. Is that still the case?
I think we might be. I'm trying to learn to delegate a little bit, so that's not my area. But yeah, send an email, check the website. We also have the Buddy Brown Blues Festival coming up in August.
Yeah, August 6th, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and we're definitely looking for volunteers for that as well. And we've had to cancel that for the last 2 years as well. So we're really looking forward to having that one back.
Now, I noticed that both of them are in Blue Lake. It seems like Blue Lake is the ideal location for something like this, right? I mean,
the weather tends to be a little better, and it's not that far from the population center. And in particular, Del Arte, I mean, we're blessed. We are one of the few outside groups that Del Arte allows to use that very special amphitheater that they have there. And so we feel very honored that they're willing to partner with us. And then Perigo Park is a lovely location for an all-day festival. So, it's something that, I mean, we're not limited to that, but it just really works easy for us to be out there. And it's generally sunnier and 5 to 10 degrees warmer out there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it's always nicer, and it's just like they are attuned to performance out there because of Del Arte or whatever. It just seems like the spirit of the place encourages creativity and fun. So that's going to be, I think, a great time. What are you looking forward to most? I mean, is there a performer that you're particularly hyped to see, or what are you anticipating?
For me, I look forward to it all just coming together and seeing all the people. And I think that's the most important thing. I rarely get a chance to relax much during the festival, and I actually rarely play during the festival. So this is kind of unusual for me to get a chance to perform as well. But to me, it's just there's a moment, particularly like on Saturday afternoon when the music sounds great and the crowd is having a good time and the weather's great, and it just fills my soul. I kind of have joked that it's a big party I throw for a couple hundred of my closest friends, but it's a special occasion. Just the vibe, the feeling of it, and the joy that it brings.
Okay, now go ahead. If people want to get tickets, where should they go? Brown paper tickets?
Tickets for Thursday night and Friday night are available. If they go to HumboldtFolklife.com, there's some links there. The Thursday night tickets may be close to sold out at this point. There are also some tickets at Wildberries, so that might be worth checking out. Friday night as well, there are tickets available. There's some great bands playing Friday night, and then Saturday's free.
Okay, and we'll have a link in the description on YouTube for folks who want to be able to click on that and get there. But thank you, Pat, for coming on the show and for promoting your upcoming event. I'm really excited to see it back this year. And I think it's one of those things like the Kinetic Sculpture Race and Del Arte's performances and everything else that really defines sort of who we are up here in our little corner of the woods,
Yeah. Well, James, thank you for having me as a guest here, and I look forward to seeing you out there.
Awesome, sir. Well, I appreciate your time.
All right, be well.
Okay, we'll be right back after this short break.
This is a moment. There's a whole wide world out there.
This is a battlefield.
The river is the most important part of nature.
Humans have never done this before.
So many senses have come alive. We go with what the environment gives us. We are supposed to protect it.
It's a real drama, and it's unfolding right in front of you. This will show us so many things that we just haven't seen.
Change is coming.
Start a new adventure as big as you imagine.
Humboldt County will use roughly 25% more electricity if Nordic Aquafarms is permitted to build a land-based fish farm on the Samoa Peninsula. Headline Humboldt's Eric Black analyzes how the electricity spike will affect the county's fight against climate change.
California generates more than a third of its grid electricity by burning natural gas.
People should care about putting carbon into the atmosphere because that creates the greenhouse effect, where we are trapping heat into the atmosphere and it's raising our temperature. Here on Humboldt Bay, we need to worry about that primarily because of sea level rise. As the atmosphere warms, glaciers melt, and the sea level rises.
To slow coastal flooding and climate change's other harmful effects, beginning in 2045, the state will prohibit utility companies from burning natural gas. They'll have to use renewable sources to generate electricity. But 93% of Humboldt County customers are accelerating that timeline by bypassing PG&E and buying electricity through our community choice aggregator.
So there was a law passed in the early 2000s that allowed this community choice aggregation. And it means basically that local governments can purchase electricity or perhaps even own generation assets themselves to produce the electricity. By 2025, we're aiming to have all of our electricity come from a combination of renewable and carbon-free sources. Solar, wind, biomass, geothermal, large and small hydropower could all be parts of our portfolio of electricity by 2025. By 2030, we have a second goal, which is to have all of the electricity come from local renewable sources in or near Humboldt County.
Around that same time, Nordic Aquafarms plans to begin harvesting roughly 150,000 pounds a day of Atlantic salmon. First, the company will demolish this smokestack and most other remnants of Louisiana Pacific's pulp mill visible from here on Woodley Island. The fish farmed on the rebuilt site will never experience the sea or bay. Instead, Nordic will hatch purchased eggs on land in an indoor hatchery. The juveniles will then swim through underground pipes to these grow-out modules, where they'll grow in tanks to market size. To remove waste and viruses, Nordic's power-hungry recirculating aquaculture system will flush, filter, and recycle tank water every 2 hours. The farm will use as much electricity as roughly Eureka and Fortuna combined.
In some conversations with folks from Nordic, they intimated that they're going to actually be following these renewable energy goals. And those of us who have, followed projects like this here in the States know that companies can say one thing and then do another.
Environmental groups pressured Nordic to buy power from Redwood Coast Energy Authority. Compared to PG&E, RCEA transacts less electricity from natural gas. On June 30th, activists declared victory when Nordic legally committed to
purchase renewable and/or non-carbon energy through RCEA, relying on its available portfolio, or purchase 100% non-carbon renewable portfolio from one of the other energy service providers in California. And as technically and commercially feasible, that Nordic would enter into a purchase power agreement with the proposed offshore wind project and or other non-carbon renewable energy sources located in Humboldt County.
That wind project could be built by RCEA. Later this year, Humboldt's intergovernmental electricity provider and its private partners plan to bid on the federal right to install roughly 12 turbines 25 miles off Eureka's coast. The floating windmills would tower over the sea at roughly the height of San Francisco's Transamerica building. Nordic Aquafarms would buy electricity generated by the non-carbon emitting turbines.
So it can make the wind energy project more feasible because there's a massive committed consumer for that energy source. This project has the potential to really make our renewable local energy goals here feasible because they do have that purchasing power.
When we set the 2030 goal, the expectation at that time was that we'd have offshore wind available to include in our portfolio by then. I don't know if that's a safe bet still, that that's going to happen. A couple of years ago, there was a proposal for an onshore wind energy project, the TerraGen project, that would have been built on ridges just outside of Scotia and Rio Dell. There was considerable community opposition to that project, and they didn't get the permit that they needed from the county to develop the project.
With uncertainty about wind energy looming on the horizon, on July 28th, the Humboldt County Planning Commission will evaluate Nordic's proposed electricity sources and other aspects of the fish farm plan. The commission's granting or denial of a development permit can be appealed to the Board of Supervisors.
If permits are approved for the site here near Redwood Marine Terminal 2, demolition could begin in the next year, construction by 2025. The first fish could hit market before the end of the decade. Eric Black, Headline Humboldt, Samoa.
This past week, it was reported that Marianne Ness from Nordic Aquafarms, who we've had on the show several times, left the company, along with fellow executive Eric Heim. The two had long been the face of the local project to officials and the public around here. This week, the company announced that longtime company chief financial officer Brenda Chandler has taken over as interim president and assured the community that the change will not impact the company's plans moving forward. This past Saturday night, in front of a packed crowd at a Crabs game in Arcata, State Senator Mike McGuire took the mound. Well, kind of. He took the field to announce that the state will provide $1 million to help restore the much-beloved Arcata ballpark. Quote, for nearly 80 years, the Humboldt Crabs have been bringing joy to the North Coast, McGuire said on social media. The team is beloved. That's why we couldn't be more thrilled to announce a $1 million investment in Arcata Ballpark by the state of California for a major renovation. The money will go toward general stadium improvements, additional disability access, a new front facade, and the construction of a new entrance. Other improvements may also be in the offing, according to Crabs leadership. The team has been fielding ideas for potential improvements from its fan base. So far, perhaps unsurprisingly, better seats seems to be the preferred choice. That's it for tonight. Thanks for joining us. Just for those of you who have interests like mine, 75 years ago tonight, the UFO crashed in Roswell. Stay tuned. Stay informed.